So these are all the fun things that I'm going to go ahead and be using today. So I think you're going to see like a side profile of me on the actual screen. I hope you can see this all okay. So a couple of things when it comes to painting loose florals and leaves, I feel like it's really helpful just to sketch everything out. So I'll go ahead and sketch exactly what we'll be painting today. So a couple of things to know. I'm going to prep everything in just a second, but if you have something handy, go ahead and try to find just like a round circle. I'm just going to use it as an outline to trace my wreath. Unless you are super talented and you can just draw a perfect circle, but I'm just going to lightly outline it, just like that. You might not be able to see it as well. And afterwards, I'm done painting. I'm just gonna erase it all. So with this one, I'm just going to like show you all the sketching process first and like what I'll be doing. So typically when it comes to a wreath, I like to have a couple of things going on. I'll focus on the leaf elements and then also the florals. I like to actually first start my florals first. So I'll go ahead and paint maybe a floral right here. This is just a really loose sketch of me doodling it. Just pretend this is a flower. So imagine me painting a floral right here. I'm gonna also maybe paint one right there. You can also have another flower maybe next to it, but just in a different color. It's totally optional. But pretend these are flowers. So after I paint that, then I have a clear idea of how to fill in these sections of the wreath itself. Because I find it so hard when I'm starting to paint a wreath, but I don't actually have a direction of where I'm headed towards. So this is not going to be like the exact that it'll come out, but this is just an idea of how to get started. So with that, I think we might have some time to paint a couple of wreaths. So for the first one, we'll paint a loose floral first, and then I'm going to just outline the entire thing with a leaf illustration. So with my leaf, it's gonna look something like this, where they're gonna be like almond-shaped leaves. Just like that. And then I'll go ahead and show the step-by-step techniques using the watercolors and with the paintbrush as well. But just so that way you get a kind of an idea of what I'm going to do. So after I have my leaf going in one direction, I'm going to have it kind of just like follow this direction by painting the next leaf this way. I think with the second leaf, I'm going to try to do the almond-shaped leaves, but maybe doing it a little bit longer. Like that. This is just like, again, a really rough sketch of what I'm going to be painting. It's not the actual piece, but this is just an idea. And I think it'd be really fun to also add some like loose florals around it. And I'll go ahead and show what those illustrations will look like as well. So my dots are just like an indication of loose florals. When I add the loose florals, it's just going to be just placed randomly. I like to normally not plan it out as much, but this is so far the idea of what I'm going to be kind of like planning out for the wreath. And the reason again I do this is because I know that when I first started painting, I would start filling in the wreath, and at the very end, it would be a really tight finish. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I had maybe planned it out, it might have fit in better. Yeah, so I'm going to put this to the side. Any questions so far with the wreath illustration sketch?
So I think just before we get into actually painting, if we can take a look at the different materials that you're going to be using.
Oh yeah, totally, of course.
Now
Oh,
you're using the Strathmore Ready Cut sheets, and these are really cool because they're 100% cotton cold press.
yep. Yeah. So I like using them so much because it absorbs the water and like the pigments in a really unique way, and also maintains it being still like really vibrant, and it doesn't dry very fast. So you can also go back and add more pigments to it, which is really, really nice.
And then we're also going to be using from Daler-Rowney the Aquafine Watercolor Inks.
Yeah.
So these are fun because these are actually pigment-based inks.
Yep.
And that means that they're not going to fade, they're going to blend more easily, and you get vibrant, pure colors, which you wouldn't get from a dye-based ink. So we're going to shake those up so that the pigments are evenly dispersed within there. And you can use these directly out of the bottle, or if you want to use a different shade and have them be lighter, you can just add more water to that.
Yeah. You can also use like an empty palette or like a ceramic dish to dip in the colors and mix it with water. And of course, I'm going to be painting with the Princeton Aqua Elite Brushes, and I'm using the round brush size 4 and 6. And I like the round brushes because it's like, it provides a really good balance of like adding a lot of pressure and like loose pressure by just a single brush stroke. And I'll go ahead and definitely talk about what that looks like and things like that. Yeah.
And I think a fun fact, since we're pretty close to Earth Day, the Princeton brushes are 100% synthetic, so they are animal friendly and they are made with FSC wood handles, so responsibly managed forests. So good
Yeah.
thing for the environment. And happy World Art Day to everyone.
Oh my goodness. I remembered before going into this workshop and I was going to say that and then I forgot. That's amazing.
That's okay, teamwork. So
I know. Thank you so much for sharing all the materials and going into it. I just got lost. I just went like straight into it. So thanks for doing that with me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use one of the pigments. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna shake up the magenta color. For the first step, I'm just gonna go ahead and show you illustrations of the loose floral first. For if you have the inks, you can honestly use them directly in here and just dip your paintbrush. I'm going to actually put a little bit on my palette just because I don't know. I like to I like to like add water to it and like add like a good balance, but you can definitely just use it straight from the bottle as well. So using my round 4 brush, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse it in water a little bit right here, just to loosen up the bristles. And just go ahead and dip a little bit of the pigment right here. So with the loose floral that we're gonna go ahead and paint today, it's going to be the first one is gonna be almost like a rose. So with the rose component, I'm gonna see if I can zoom in so you can see it up close. So with the rose itself, I'm going to grip my paintbrush however it's comfortable for me, but I'm going to now use the belly of the paintbrush to create a rose. So I'm going to first start off with a pressure that looks like a C, applying that heavy pressure. And you'll notice that it's not super perfect. I'm not going to go back and fix the edges to it. I like to paint one on the left side and then one underneath it right here. And these are going to be really pigmented where I'm not using as much water, just a lot of pigment. And then I'm going to paint a third one up here. Honestly, you can paint them in different directions. This is my go-to of painting that loose floral. So after you do that, it's gonna look like that. And after you get your 3 little elements here, if you need to add more pigment to them, feel free to do so. Because then what we're gonna do next is I'm going to rinse my paintbrush in water and take out the pigment completely and tap the excess water off. And using more water on my paintbrush now, I'm going to now draw bigger C-shaped curves. So I'm going to actually start one right here, and I'm going to do it in a sense where I wanted to like touch these for like second stroke that I did here. So you'll see that the color will start to bleed into that initial or that stroke that I did. And then I'm going to paint another stroke right here. Like that. So going back and trying to like fix the edges if you'd like. And basically continuing this exact same motion of going into the circle. And you'll see that I'm kind of separating each of the petals by adding a bit of negative space here. Because then I want it to be like an illusion of a loose floral. And basically, you're just going to now keep on drawing that rose out. And I'm going to just draw more petals to make it softer. So the idea is that for a loose floral, the center is going to be really pigmented and it's going to like look like a wash finish where it's the bigger petals are going to be a lot softer. So I'm painting this rose really, really big so you can kind of see it, but on the actual wreath itself, it's going to be much smaller. And you'll see that I'm just kind of now painting more strokes around this rose just to add more petals to it. And this one is totally up to you. You can kind of have them go in different directions. Okay, so I'm noticing that these outer petals are a little bit really light. So I'm going to use pigment just to kind of drop it in a little bit more, just to make it more vibrant. And now going back and painting over that. I have the chat box open just in case, but oh, awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, so this is kind of like the idea of that rose, just kind of like having it like pigmented in the center and just painting it outwards. So with this one, I might have painted the seed strokes really, really big. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it again, just down here, so that way you can kind of see how controlled you can be. So with the round size 4 brush, I basically painted really big strokes. But if you wanted to paint a smaller rose, it would just look like this. I'm going to paint down here. So this is going to be like smaller C curves, and we're just going to apply light pressure, not that heavy pressure strokes. And I'm going to rinse my paintbrush in water and basically draw more C curves around it. And just kind of going different directions. And continuing the strokes around. Like that. So it gives like the illusion of a loose rose. So that's one of the rows that we'll be painting for this. I mentioned to you after we paint, there's going to be smaller florals, and I'm going to be also painting around it. So I'm going to kind of show you what that illustration will look like. Okay, so with this one, we'll go ahead and paint these florals that look like this, where it's going to be almost like a triangle, or not really a triangle shape, but like a downstroke pressure, and it kind of just like looks really thin on towards the end right here. And rinsing paintbrush in water, I'm going to now add another petal stroke right here. And you'll see that I'm adding a little bit of negative space and painting another stroke like that. And then I'm just going to finish off this petal by painting a stroke down here, almost like that C curve, and like rinsing it with water a little bit so it becomes a lot more looser. You can also add other petals around it if you like. So again, these are going to be a lot smaller on the wreath, so it's going to look a little bit more different. So these are going to be the smaller loose florals that we'll be painting. Okay. So any questions so far with the loose floral and like with the smaller florals that we'll be doing? Because the next step, I'm going to go ahead and just paint the individual leaves step by step, so that way you can kind of get an idea of what that will look like. For the leaf element, I'm going to use this one, the leaf green color. Yeah, so right now these are just like practice strokes and like practice runs that we were doing. We'll paint the actual final piece in just a second, but I thought it would be really helpful just to show it step by step and kind of have you like do some practice runs if it's like your first time painting something. So using that leaf green color, going to when painting a leaf, we basically are going to paint the stem first. So it's going to be a loose pressure stroke. I'm going to use the very tip of my paintbrush and draw a light pressure stroke like that. And then now where I finish off that stem, I'm going to now apply the heavy pressure. So using the belly of my paintbrush, almost drawing like a half C shape. And then now finishing off that stroke by adding another stroke underneath it. And where the 2 points meet, this is where I'm going to change the direction of it. So I'm going to make it a lot more pointier and like help change the direction of that leaf. So that's like the first step. So imagine painting that, but also now painting it for the rest of the stem itself. So when I paint another stem, I'm going to add a light pressure stroke and then now paint the same leaf and finish off that leaf again, that other pressure. And just kind of go ahead and go in that stem, going down the stem and painting more leaves. For the couple of them, I added and made sure that there was some negative space here, but you don't always have to do that. So that's kind of like one side of me painting the leaves. And now I'm going to just flip my paper over because it just helps me paint the remaining set of leaves as well.
Shelly, can I
Yeah.
ask a question? It seems like you're using a number 4 pencil brush. Yours seems to be a lot wider, your stroke, than mine is. Mine is pretty narrow.
Oh, really?
And I tried to press harder, thinking maybe it'd spread it out, but it looks wider than mine.
Let me see.
But it's a 4, right?
Yeah, it's size 4. It could also be like changing the direction of the paintbrush as well. I know that I think it also depends, like I guess with the amount of water, try adding a little bit more water and like fanning out the brush strokes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it could also be like it's still maybe it feels stiff. There's not a lot of pigment or water on it. Yeah, give that a try. Let me know. And I'm just painting the rest of the leaves here. Okay, so that's basically one set of the leaves, but also I might just also be painting really, really big just to show the illustration really clearly in the camera. Because for the wreath, I'm not going to paint them maybe this big as well. So for the next wreath I'm going to have you do, I'll paint a little bit smaller. I'm going to actually have you make those almond shaped leaves again, but not applying as much pressure. So we're just going to do like half pressure and then it's like mainly just using the tip of the paintbrush. Like that. Did that help with adding more water and pigment? just like that. So it's basically the exact same brush strokes that we're doing for the first one, but just having the petals a lot more smaller, and that's going to be like the second set of leaves. So the reason why I like the round brush is because I think it's pretty incredible how a single brush stroke can change, and like it can really change the way the final outcome would look. Like that. So it's totally up to you because I know you also have like a few different colors. So with this, with the leaves, you can honestly just paint them with a green stem and finish off the leaf as well. Or you can also use the burnt umber color and painting the stem and then painting the leaves. It's totally optional and up to you. I'll go ahead and show that so that way you can kind of see how the colors blend together. Any questions so far with everything? Keep me posted on that. And I'm going to now grab another sheet of paper just to get everything started. So again, these are just practice runs that we did. And this is the reference for anyone tuning in as well that we'll be painting. Yeah, I hope you all are excited and ready to paint the wreath. Let's go ahead and do that first wreath and kind of see what that turns out. I'm going to use my round edge again and trace out the wreath. That. And I'm going to go ahead and get my palette and put a few more different colors in here. So it's totally up to you. If you also just have like one color that you're using, you can definitely use more pigment to help differentiate the colors as well, which is really fun. And go ahead and a little bit of the purple. Okay, I promise I'm almost done. Add a little bit of yellow to my green so it can be a little bit more, just have like a different color and it'll be really fun to mix. So with the gold ink, if you do ever come across it, basically I like to dip it and like add it to the colors because it adds a really nice effect after it dries. So this is me just going to do that for a couple of them. Okay, so with that, using our sketch illustration that we're going to be painting, let's paint our first rose together. And we're going to paint the rose in the upper left-hand corner right here. So because it's a wreath, we're going to have to paint them a little bit smaller. So I'm going to paint a C curve stroke right there and another one. That. Then pressing my paintbrush in water, now drawing bigger C curves just to outline it. Painting more C curve strokes. And just making the outer rose a lot more softer in shade. So I'm going to just draw a couple more loose petals. Okay, so I have the problem with painting the roses too big, especially, so I'm going to kind of stop now. I'm going to draw one more and then kind of take a step back and just leave it alone now. Okay, I'm gonna fix a couple more strokes, I promise, and that's it. So now with that first illustration, let's go ahead and paint the second one. The second rose, I'm gonna use a different color. To use this portrait pink color and paint it down here.
Are you painting it on the circle?
Yeah, I'm painting on the circle. I painted mine too big. So it looks maybe not on the circle, but it's on the circle. So the first strokes that I'm painting here for the center point, it's basically lined up against the circle. And then painting bigger C strokes to make this rose looser. So you'll see that each time I draw these bigger strokes, I'm making sure that it touches the center point to give it some color to the other strokes that I'm painting, and it'll give like a really soft effect. Yay. So it's like the exact same floral that I painted, but if you paint in different directions of the petals, it looks different. So it's definitely fun to kind of see. I feel like it's really hard to replicate the exact same rose each time. So it's really fun to kind of see how you'll paint it. So after I paint my 2 roses right there, I'm gonna go ahead and just add a pop of color and start using the green to outline my leaf. Actually, I'm gonna show you what it looks like if you were to paint a stem first, like using the burnt umber color. So I'm going to now outline my wreath itself. And that's gonna be the stem for our leaves. And I'm just using the very tip of my paintbrush. So I'm gonna actually stop right there. I'm not gonna go all the way down to the flower because we're gonna have to paint our leaf there. So using the green now, I'm going to now paint my leaf. So it's up to you how you want the style to be. I accidentally touched my my rose right here, so basically the green started bleeding into it. If you definitely like that effect, continue to do that. That was an accident. I'm going to now paint another stroke right there and then paint more leaves. And just kind of continuing that same stroke.
Are you following the outer ring or the inner ring?
I'm following the outer ring first. Yeah, so then let me zoom in really fast. I'm basically painting on the outer right here and then painting my leaf. Does that help? Zooming in. And you can also have these leaves go in different directions. It's definitely, it doesn't have to go one way. I'm just following the outline of the circle. I'm painting a couple more. Actually squeeze one right here so you can help fill in that spacing. So that's one side of the leaf as well. I'm going to now tilt my paper and just kind of follow it going inwards. And when you paint the leaves, you don't always have to have it line up also with the leaves on the other side, I mean. So they almost look like they're staggering. Like that. And just kind of seeing, so that's one set of the leaves that we're painting. And so that way you can kind of see without the brown stem as well. I'm going to paint the other side and have it go in this direction. So just outlining the wreath again. And this one, I'm going to try to do the same exact leaf technique, but adding less pressure. So it almost looks like a really long almond shape. Just kind of drawing one side of the stems first. I like to honestly draw one side of the leaves because I don't have to keep like alternating my paper around. And I feel like it also helps kind of like go, or I guess it helps to show what direction my leaves are going to go in. And for this one, I'm not using so much of the belly of the paintbrush. I'm using more of like the very tip of it to make the outline first and then finish off the leaf. That. Kind of seeing, okay, so this is the leaf itself, the wreath itself with the 2 florals. And I'm going to now take a moment and see where exactly do I want to place the remaining other florals also. I'm going to also open up my yellow color here. Okay. Any questions so far? I hope you're still feeling really good and excited to paint more things. So with the next set of smaller florals that I'll be painting, they're just honestly going to be like down pressure strokes and adding some like petals around that. So I'm probably going to add one right here because I see it having some negative space. I'm going to make sure it's not wet so I can rest my hand. And now apply that heavy pressure stroke and then resting my paintbrush in water and drawing another stroke.
Oh, cool. Okay. Heavy pressure. Heavy pressure stroke. And some water.
Yeah. And it kind of just like has that color bleed into it. And I'm going to add a couple of more, just kind of seeing more pressure here. And maybe kind of balancing it out. I'm going to paint another one, probably right here. So with this one, I like to wait, maybe adding them when it fully dries. So that way the colors come out more vibrant and it's not bleeding into the leaf colors. Another one right here. That. And raising my brush in water, I'm going to now add some more pop of color to it. So I'm going to probably use the same magenta color that I used with the first rose. And just adding, I'm going to turn my paper around just to help use as a guide. Just like drawing some lines. And painting maybe one right here. So with these roses that or these like smaller florals that I'm doing, I don't have like a specific direction of where I'm painting them. I'm just kind of doing it where there's like some negative space and placing it really randomly. One thing to do, possibly you can also paint them next to the first set of florals that you painted, like right here, or like next to these big elements. We'll paint one right here. So with these florals, I'm using a little bit more pigment for this one because I basically wanted to look a little bit different from the rose that we initially painted, because they're the exact same color, but the rose, I just washed it off with by using water. Yeah. Just adds like a fun pop of color to them. I'm going to now also add some purple now. Some purple, possibly just adding it right here. So I'm trying my hardest to also have some like negative space, because it might also, if you don't have like some spacing between, it can look like a blob of paint, which I think after it dries, it should look cool. Just kind of giving you that idea in case if you want to just like separate the individual strokes. That. Okay. And then I'm going to add probably another one right here. There's like 3 lines that I'm painting. That. Okay, so now I'm going to throw in some yellow colors into it. So with the yellow color, I'm going to actually, I was trying to see what direction I want to paint these ones. Let's go ahead and do like a cluster of dots. I'm going to add a dot right there, and right here, just like that, and then basically just add that pop of color around the entire wreath. Couple more dots. So they're just really small dots that I'm painting. And drawing a couple more right here. And it can also be like in a different color, it doesn't have to be in yellow. Okay, I hope you're still feeling good and just really getting into the painting process and just having fun. So after the pigment's fully dry, then I'm going to get an eraser and like lightly erase the areas that have that I can see the pencil. Again, it's totally optional, but I probably would wait for a while for it to like fully dry just to make sure I don't pick up any of the pigment off. So that's one of the wreaths. And honestly, if you don't like how busy it is, you can also take away some of the florals, like the smaller elements, so you don't have to paint so many of them. I'm going to, since we have some time, feel free to ask any questions. And I'm going to put this to the side for now and just go ahead and paint a couple more of like different like wreath variations if maybe you wanted to kind of see it in different styles. So I'm going to just outline. So I'm going to just paint here. You can definitely follow along, or you can also just watch. So with this other illustration, I'm going to actually paint 2 florals next to each other. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Painting again the C strokes here. Washing off water. Just adding a couple more petals right here, just to kind of help separate that. And that's one of the roses, or it could be just like a loose like bloom floral. I'm using another color. I'm just going to add some space here to paint the next one next to it. I'm going to start right here. That way there's enough room to like draw the petals and everything. I'll draw a pin into these little areas. But just like that. So it's like a really loose floral right there. And I'm going to now start painting my leaf just around it. So I'm going to actually, let's see if we can paint our leaves in different directions. I feel like also adding a yellow leaf could be fun. So I'm going to start by painting my first set of leaves. So I'm going to draw that pressure right here. And I'm actually going to stop right there. And then adding light pressure, painting my little leaves. Just kind of going around that wreath. So the reason why also, if you were wondering why my leaf has like different colors going on, I mixed a little bit of green and yellow on one side, and then the other side I'm basically using the green only. And it just adds like a really fun ombre effect. Okay, another one right here, and probably another one right there. That. And then I'm going to now outline. So I don't really know how this is going to look. I didn't get to like test it out, but I'm going to basically paint a yellow leaf right there. And kind of stopping around that section. And painting another set of leaves. I'm going to have this one be the exact same strokes, but also kind of emphasizing the tips of it, so it goes in like a different like flowy direction. instead of ending it like super straight. So I'm painting the leaves first, adding and finishing it off, and at the very tip, just adding a down pressure stroke. Or I'm sorry, a light pressure stroke. Then painting more of the leaves. That adds like a fun pop of color to it. I'm going to now paint the other half with the same green. Just outlining it with the stem and then painting my leaves. I'm just adding more pressure, or less pressure as well. And kind of seeing, you can also add maybe a couple of leaves here. It can always be fun. I'm just like adding 3 petals right there. Okay, awesome. So basically these are the true wreaths that I want to kind of showcase. So this one, again, it's like the exact same techniques that we did here, but we just added less elements and just focused on on painting the florals and the leaves. This one, again, the composition is that they're next to each other. This one, they're like across from each other. So that's like adding some finishing touches. And I also wanted to paint a yellow leaf just to help make it look different and just add like a contrast to it. If you also have like gold ink, I used to also paint like gold leaves here as well. It just adds like a really fun color piece to it. And yeah, so if you wanted to add the same elements you did for the first one, you definitely can do so. Totally up to you. But I hope you're still feeling excited and like, still feel good about the painting process and like learning a new technique today. One thing I always get asked is, what do you do with these wreaths? Do you just leave them like that? Sometimes I do, but then I can also write something inside of it. It's definitely up to you. I guess it also depends like how big the wreath is as well. Sometimes I can put like words in there. For this one, I'll go ahead and use my pencil and sketch out something. I'm just going to sketch out the letter A for Ashley.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yay.
And what's really fun about the fact that these come in the dropper bottle is if instead of doing lettering with a brush, you could actually, Plaza sells refillable empty paint markers that
Oh,
you can
amazing.
fill with the watercolor ink so you can do your calligraphy like that.
Yeah. No, that's like so fun. Yeah, it honestly gives like a better control. So with this one, I know that we didn't really talk about hand lettering and stuff like that. It's like another thing I love to do. So with the lettering portion of it, I'm going to use the blue, and with that sketch, my upstrokes are going to be light pressure. So I'm just going to outline what I wrote here. So upstrokes are going to be light pressure. So using the very tip of my paintbrush. And then my downstrokes are going to be heavy pressure. And just tracing what I wrote. Finishing off the A with the light pressure stroke.
Okay.
like that. Yeah, it just adds like a really fun finish to the wreath. But I don't always like to write in the wreaths just because I think it's also like fun how it is, and I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up. That's me being honest about that. So yeah, this is with the two wreaths that we painted with the floral illustrations. So I would love to see all of your artworks. Please do tag us and definitely have fun playing around with different compositions. Maybe even have a wreath that only has leaves only, no, and like no florals, or maybe have a leaf that has a bunch of florals going around it. It's always just like a fun way to experiment and see how different yours can be. I feel like there's like so many different variations to it. I know that I focused on drawing a circle wreath, but if let's say you have like a square shape, or like a square shape or like rectangle, you can also draw different wreaths that way as well. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and see everyone. Yeah. So I know I said I use the six brush. The six brush, you can also use it for like the floral illustrations. And if you want to paint smaller leaves, you can use a round 4 brush. It definitely is just your preference on it. But yeah, this is the 2 pieces that we painted today. Yeah, I hope you all had a good time and had fun, and just having a 1 hour at least just to paint and just focus on yourself. I feel like that's always something that I'm trying to strive for, but the day just goes by so quickly, and I don't know what happens to the day. But I'm going to kind of go through the comments as well. The extra color you added, for the lettering, I use this color. I use the cobalt blue hue. I hope that was a question. But for the leaves, if you wanted to change the colors, I used a mixture of the leaf green along with the yellow. Yeah, I hope you all had a good time again. It was so good just to see your faces and meet you all, and just having fun painting something that looks so fun and colorful. And I hope it brightened your day. Thank you so much, everyone. My gosh,
Thank you. I can't believe that was only an hour.
I know it goes by so fast. I was like already done. Oh man, I wish I could stay here longer with you all and see all of your colorful artworks. I would love to see if you can hold up what you painted. I would love to see your illustrations. You don't have to, but it just brightens my day. Oh, so beautiful. My goodness. Oh, you wrote spring. That looks amazing. Oh my gosh. I love all of your artworks, and oh my gosh. So, so good. I hope you all had a good time and just had fun painting for the past hour with me. So beautiful works, and feel free if you want to tag us. We were open to it, and I want to repost your works as well. I'm over here at Letters by Shells, and feel free to tag as well. Yeah, good job everyone, so much. You did incredible. Hope
Thank you.
everybody-
Thank